Good evening, everyone. This is Leslie Neely of Ivory Melody, and we are here tonight with our final um, interview conversation of the season. And tonight, my guest is Derrick Lionel, and he is here. So let's get him on. We are going to be totally unscripted tonight. Totally unscripted. Totally unscripted. Hey,
Hey,
how
how
are
are you?
you?
I'm so excited to be here. You look gorgeous.
Thank you.
God, you stunning. You look amazing. I feel like I
Listen,
need to go let me button this up a little higher
no,
because you look,
teleworking all day looking like scruff.
yeah, not at all.
I can't come through here
Um,
like this. But how are you?
I'm doing well in yourself.
I'm good. I'm very, very good. Hopefully, we'll get a few more body. Chris Bender,
So
my
Chris Bender,
brother.
Capria, some wonderful people popping
Capria.
on.
Yeah.
You,
Lord, you are our champion.
that boy sings.
There
Chris
is
Bender
no battle
sings.
you
He sings.
haven't won. This is Capria. You will always be
Oh, Capria.
victorious forever.
I think the first time I heard Capria sing, I sat with my mouth hanging open
So
like this.
let me tell you something about Capria while we're sitting in here. So Easter Sunday night, Baltimore, Maryland, Jason Nelson's church, Charles Butler and Trinity, right? Easter Sunday night. So I'm waiting for thank you for the blood.
Yes,
I'm
you're
ready,
ready. You're
right?
ready.
You
You're
know,
ready.
right? Like I'm ready, right? I don't see Josh Copeland nowhere. I
Where's
said,
who's leading the number? Who's
how
leading?
how this about to happen? Because y'all about to go down in flames if y'all don't sing that song tonight. They got up there and they started singing and handed that mic to Capri.
I just stare at her like this.
When the service was over, I went to Jason Nelson and I said, bruh, that girl, and he said, Leslie, I said, she just got it. Like this little tiny body, I mean, delivering.
All of it is the truth. Capri, yes, we are taking the first portion of our session to
She
discuss
talk
you
about you. Yes.
because because it is worth
I was
discussing
like,
you.
what? I mean, flat out delivered. And
Absolutely.
delivered all the way to the end. And that made me a believer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
wow. So then when I
Yeah.
was honored to be called to sing background on her project, and they tried to kill me shooting these videos, oh, God. By the time we did the third take, I had to go put my sneakers on.
Yeah.
I said, oh my
It's
God.
and the problem is she's so humble, as they would say. She's so humble
She is the
that
sweetest.
she's so unassuming with it. She'll walk just gingerly up to the microphone and then
And
demolish everything in
demolished.
front of her.
And I
Just
usually don't use like negative sounding words for stuff like this, but
yes,
I mean like destroy a house. It is so. I did change my shoes because I wasn't making it since I was going down in flames. If
yeah,
I had changed my shoes,
yeah.
but
But
just like being in rehearsal with her, she knows her music. She knows how she wants her set to go. Like she has a vision that
yeah,
she works. She
see, and we
wants it
don't
done this
know.
way.
We're talking about Capria, but we've already started our conversation. They don't
Exactly.
know. We're
Exactly.
talking about Capria because we've already started our conversation
Because
because
this
this is
is
the type of
how
vibe you
this is
give.
how it comes together.
Yeah.
This is how it comes together. And then her runs, and I don't even really think of their runs. I think this is just she how she embodies her or how she articulates her song to God.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's so clean and it's so
yeah.
and she know her numbers and all that stuff. I'm like, go ahead, girl.
But that'll lead me into my thank you as we're starting. I appreciate you for always highlighting and pushing and supporting amazing
Oh,
people around you. You are incredible. Like I know I will support anything you
oh,
do because your
thank
heart is so
you.
pure towards people that are creating and people that are
Yeah,
performing and people that are putting what they have their heart in out into the world. You're so supportive all the time that I'm like,
Oh,
yo, I will forever. Like, of course, let's lend your platform to discuss someone else because
yes,
this is what you do. And
this is
I
what
love
I
it.
do. Yes, and it's amazing because you actually came in a service capacity for my in session workshop in October. It was
Yeah,
a very small, intimate setting, but
it was
you were
great
like,
though.
"What do you want me to do?" I said, "Well, how much can I pay you?" And you like, "No, just what do you want me to do?" And you came and you took the stress off of me. You
That's what I want to do.
really took the stress off of me, and you stayed all day. You
That's because I
participated
was
in
getting
the
me a
thing.
lesson too. That's because I was at the door checking people in, but I was like, while I'm here, I might as well just take the class
Yeah,
while I'm in the room.
everybody is entitled. If you're in the room, you
Yep.
can participate in the class. And that's how all of my sessions are. And it's crazy because when I first started, it started small. And then, of course, with the bigger names that I had, more people came.
Yeah.
But I can do the bigger names when that's available. But when it's not, there are people around me, as you saw,
Yeah.
because my whole Soulful Symphony family was pretty much the
Hmm.
instructors for the last one who can give. Okay, so hold on. This is interesting. My I have YouTube Premium, so I was attending a Grammy class on how to keep your creativity monetized,
Uh-huh.
and it must have been over because then it just went on to the next video,
Video.
and it just started
This is
playing.
you multitasking.
Yes, so let me turn her all the way off. I knew I was
This
going
is
to forget
cool.
something. But anyway, but I really appreciate you doing that because you spent the whole day with me on a day where half of the city was cut in half because of a marathon. So it was just so many factors, but you showed up and you stayed with me all day, and I really, really appreciate that.
I was grateful to be asked.
So let's tell people who you are.
Man, I'm so excited. My name is Derrick. Most people know me as Derrick Lionel or Derrick Lionel, whichever way you want to pronounce it. I don't
Us,
mind.
us, us Maryland folks say
Uh,
line now.
yeah, Lionel is here. Lionel everywhere else. Really, my last name is Millard, but it's just a hilarious story. How one of those Instagram stories when I first got on Facebook, you didn't want everybody to know your name because we weren't sure what Facebook was. This was maybe 10 years ago, and so I was like, I don't know. So on Facebook, I put my name as Derrick L because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
want anybody to know what my last name was. And so after a while, people just started referring to me as Derrick
Derek
L.
L.
And then Facebook had this thing where they made you no longer have an initial. They were for verification purposes. They were like, you have to have your last name or
Right.
have a name. So I put in Lionel as my last name, which is really my middle name. And from that point on, everywhere it's Derrick Lionel or Derrick Lionel, which is actually not my last name. It's Millard. But I am a creative. I love just doing a bunch of different things. My four different fields that I probably function the most in is I love all things music, I love all things event planning, I love all things theater arts, and I love all things with writing and creating and poetry and
Wow.
different things like
Okay.
that. So really, I do a bunch of different things. Primarily right now, I work full time as the creative director for a ministry, Spirit of Faith Christian Center here.
Which is
We're
what
having a good
y'all are
time.
doing. Y'all are
We're
really
having a
enjoying
good time. We're
what
having
you
a good
all
time.
are doing. And my brother, Brian True,
Yeah, Brian is my bro. I love that
yeah,
guy.
we're both members of Kingdom Worship Center, and I mean, like, I've been
Yeah,
knowing
yeah,
Brian all the 20 years that I've been there. Like,
yeah,
you guys are
yeah.
rocking out.
He's incredible. And so I do a bunch of stuff, just fun stuff with them, which I'm sure we'll get to later. And then I
Hmm.
run my own platform where I curate a few different things. Story Songs is a platform where I like to showcase indie artists with the focus of telling stories
Wow.
because I believe that is what impactful music is music that tells a story and has a
Hmm.
testimony behind it. So there's Story Songs. And then I have another platform, which is more so my teacher platform, which is Christ Made Creative. And that deals with every CEO, business owner, entrepreneur, all of those things, people that are culture focused but Christ centered but culture focused.
Wow. Okay.
So I do all of that as well. So I put my hands in probably about a lot of different things, but it all kind of makes up who I am in totality. What's up, Greg?
Okay.
It's good to see you.
Okay. So, wow. Where to begin then? So, you were a theater major?
Yeah.
At Temple. Okay.
What's up, bro? Good to see you.
I love
Um,
that young lady.
woo,
She's a gift.
she's good.
She's a gift. I'm
She's good.
telling you, she's a
So we,
gift.
but this, okay, I'm going to deviate because I just really want to highlight. I so appreciate being in rooms with people like this or this type of room because
Yeah.
we'll sit. We're so loving of just music and people that we'll
Right.
sit here all day long and talk about every single person
Yep.
that shows up on the street.
Sure will.
So, but for me, I graduated Temple University with a
Okay.
degree in theater and communications. It's I went to Temple as a biology major. It was insane. All my life, I had told my parents that I was going to be a doctor,
Okay.
and they sent me to school to be a biology major. And when I got on there to school, that freshman year of school, the end of the year, I went to see a production. It was called Into the Woods. Have you ever seen Into the Woods?
No.
Into the Woods is an amazing musical. If anybody's on and knows what I'm talking about, the movie version has Meryl Streep playing one of the roles, the witch. You go check it out. It's a really
Anything
incredible.
Merle's in, I'll see
Yeah,
it. Okay.
it's called Into the Woods. It's one of
Okay.
my favorite musicals, and I saw it the end of my freshman year of college, and in it was this girl named Davine Joy Randolph, and she was played the same role Meryl plays in the movie.
Okay.
And so she played this role. Right now, she on film, she's on television, she did Broadway, this girl I'm talking about.
Is
But
this
she
the
was
girl? Was she in Hamilton?
no, she wasn't in
No.
Hamilton. No,
Okay. Okay.
this girl was she played Whoopi Goldberg's character on Broadway when they did Ghost the musical. She was
Uh.
Whoopi. She was Whoopi. So
Wow.
that's what I'm
Okay.
trying to tell you what she ended up
Okay.
being. She went to
Okay.
Yale for theater. So, but she was a senior in college when I came in.
Okay.
And she destroyed this part so badly that I sat in the theater afterward and just stared at her. Like stared at this,
Wow.
as she was bowing on stage, I just was like, and you ever been there when you've seen someone do what you love to do and they demolish it so badly that you're just like,
You're at a loss. Yeah.
and I just sat there staring at her and I was like, I have to say something to her. And so after it was over, I went up to her and I asked her, told her her performance was amazing, told her I had done theater as a hobby in high school, but that I just looked at her on stage and said to myself, I want to do that.
Okay.
And so she was like, why don't you take a class? Well, a class turned into me declaring a minor in theater while me having a theater major, which then the next semester I became a theater major and biology major, double major.
Wow.
The next semester I became a theater major and a biology minor. The next semester, I tell people I slow walked my parents through this process
Oh.
where I slowly was like, well, it's going to be a double major. And then the next semester, I was like, well, I'm just going to drop biology to a minor. Leslie, I ended up graduating with no biology degree and graduated with a theater communications degree. To this day,
Wow.
I am maybe one semester of classes away from my biology degree
Biology.
that I just did not complete because when it came time to graduate, I was like, look, y'all, you can pay for this extra semester of what I'm telling you I'm not going to do, or you could just let me graduate with this theater communications degree.
Right. Right. Right.
So it was fun, but that's how that was the kind of like the beginning of my journey getting into these theater arts things. So
Wow. So you're a Philadelphia native, a Pennsylvania
no,
native?
weirdly enough, it's so funny that you're from here and you asked me that. I am from here. I grew up
Wow.
in the DMV, but so many people don't know that because I tell people all the time that I grew up musically and theatrically in Philly. So when I was here, I sang at my local church, but I really
Mhm.
didn't do much outside of my local church. It
Okay.
wasn't until I went to school in Philly and I joined the gospel choir there, Temple Gospel Ministries. And
Hmm.
at the time, they had, Ty Tribbett and GA was around, was up Phil,
Right.
and a bunch of
Right.
other people were just coming through our rehearsals, like
Right.
singers. And that is where I could say I developed into like singing and performing and doing things
Okay.
around other people was in Philly. So many people from this area think that I'm Philly born
Right.
because Philly was the beginning of me doing anything that anybody would have any attention to before that point.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you're from here, you go to Philly, and then you come back. So let's move it forward. I believe I met you as an artist.
I think I met you at was it that radio is that where I actually
Yes,
met you?
yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so I can't even remember how that happened. I had just released the one and only single I've released to this day, which I loved. It was called Children of the Lord. And somehow, I can't even remember how God did it. I found myself on some radio
It
performance.
was
I
it
can't
was
even,
it was Spirit 14. No, it was a Spirit, whatever the Spirit thing is. Right
yep,
now, I don't know. I'm bad at that because I don't listen to radio that much.
yeah,
Cheryl Jackson was the
yep. Cheryl
host that
Jackson was the
night,
host.
and there was a lot of indie artists who came through
Yep,
there. I sang that night with Randy Roberts,
yep.
from Baltimore, and you sang before us, and I was like you gave it your everything. Like you
Oh,
left
thank you.
it all right there. And the
Yeah.
people loved it. The people
Oh,
loved it.
thank you, Leslie.
That was really
I
good.
tend to be that type of person. I'm a person who I've always been taught to kind of leave it all on the stage. In my theater days, they've always told us they were like, just leave it all there. Just
Yeah,
everything. If you're gonna do it, just leave it all on the stage. So I try to
yeah.
do that. So I appreciate
Well,
those words.
that's what you did. And then um I know you also have your hand in special event planning. So you're an
Yeah.
event planner as well. Because I've seen some pictures of some weddings that you've done that have been
Thank you.
extremely like fantasy beautiful.
Thank you so much. That I get from my mom. My mom
Okay.
was a professional wedding planner for many, many, many years. Like, and we've done NFL players' weddings and different things like that. And so it really, where there's that thing that you kind of pick up from your family that I didn't know that I actually would start loving doing until later in life. And it just happened that friends started asking me to do it. Like friends who knew I was a good organizer, who
Hmm.
didn't want to pay for a wedding planner, would
Right.
would be like, can you just, while you're attending, could you also just tell the people what to do
Right.
while, and then you can go to your seat after you.
Right.
What's up, Shalia Limo? Oh, I love her. You could tell
Yes.
people what to do, you know, while you're there. And then that just came to me just starting planning all my friends' weddings, and then that just coordinating all my friends' weddings, and then that just
Wow.
became me being a planner on the side, which is something I
Did
also love to
did
do.
you do your own wedding?
Yes and no. We had a very small wedding on purpose because I'm a planner. So if anybody knows how heavy planning is, I knew for myself that if we had a large wedding,
Hmm.
like I've done for other people,
Right.
that I wouldn't even be able to enjoy the day
Right.
because I would have been looking at the light in the ceiling. And so we had a very intimate wedding with 40 people. It was amazing.
It
Our
was
fa-
beautiful.
our
It was
family helped
beautiful.
plan it, and it was one of the best days of my entire life, if not the best day
Wow. And
of my entire
please
life.
give my love to your wife. She is beautiful.
I will. Thank you so
She has
much,
such
Leslie.
a sweet spirit. You guys are getting ready to move on us?
Yeah, so that's so right now I'm the creative director of this ministry, but my mom has a church in Lafayette, Louisiana. It's always been known that I eventually was going to move there.
Oh,
Yeah, I was kind of doing what I was doing here as a training ground for me to go down there and assist her in
wow.
doing ministry. She has a rapidly growing ministry. Like we keep talking about, her ministry is growing faster than we can put
Uh-oh.
things in place to support. Lord.
My our it must be a storm in the area somewhere because
Yeah.
our electricity just jumped a little bit. I paid my bill
Yeah.
though. Okay.
I know, I believe you. So I'll be moving, but like I said, the day and age we're in, I don't even like to say the we're moving piece because I'm like, a flight is but very quick for me to get back. Don't don't worry at all. I can
Okay.
hop on a flight at any moment.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about what you're doing right now that's really, really prominent. That spirit of faith, you guys, how do you guys come up with these concepts? I mean, one week you guys were on roller skates.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's going to sound like a cliche statement when I say this, but I really mean it. We have been running on the grace of God, like
Wow.
meaning not in a not negative, like something would be wrong otherwise, but in terms of creativity, people would think for what we did that things were hard, but it's not. We've just found ourselves in a vein and things come to us pretty quickly. But I think it's because we're not afraid to bring up anything and everything to spark creativity. That's something that I
Okay.
always tell people. I think people miss moments all the time.
Mm.
My pastor talks about that, how moments can be missed. And I feel like in creativity, people miss moments where
Wow.
we see things that are creative and we leave it just as that and we move on. And we're like, okay, cool. That was cool for that movie I watched. But I feel like our brains never turn off from
Mhm.
creativity.
Mhm.
So we'll be watching movies, we'll be having a conversation. Somebody will fly past us too fast on the road, and we'll immediately be like, why was that person going that fast? That was like the speed of a jet. What if we taped on a jet? And it's like literally the conversations go like this upcoming week we're doing something really cool, and it'll literally be like, okay, what are we talking about right now? I feel like going to the beach. You feel like going to
Wow.
the beach? Why don't we tape on a beach? If we're gonna tape on a beach, why don't we sing oceans while we tape on the beach? Like it's
Wow.
just
Yeah.
like it
Because
just flows like that.
last week or week before, you guys were out. You were outside,
Yes, and
so I
on the
didn't
back of
get to see all of that. You were on the back of a farm,
a flatbed truck.
a flat, right, back of a flatbed truck.
And really that came directly from Pastor Tim, who's our fine arts director, because people come up
Wow.
with ideas all the time, and we
Yeah.
shoot for the stars. Like he'll call and he randomly was just like, I don't know, I just had an image of us singing on the back of a flatbed truck, and we were all like, okay. And people would think it would take a lot to do that, but we reached
But it
out to
doesn't.
somebody in the
Yeah.
ministry in the church, and somebody who went to the church had a flatbed truck, and so we just got on their flatbed truck and taped it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it's because we
Wow.
stay in a constant flow of creativity. I
Mhm.
think I think I'm a person who believes everybody who is creative, especially people who call themselves Christians, because we are made in the image of the Creator. And if we are
Mhm.
made in His image and in His likeness, that means in some form we are all creative. You're
Right.
not going to convince me that there's not a creative. You may not be creating flowers on the wall, but if you're
Right.
creating forms and documents, that's creativity.
That's creativity. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew. Okay. That week I saw y'all on the skates. I was like,
The skates was fun.
it has to be fun in order
Yeah.
for it to be pulled off like y'all did it. It has to be fun.
And it was just a vibe. I think we were listening to the song, and then somebody in the group we meet all the time. It's me, Tim, Mookie, Mookie,
Uh huh.
and a few other people. We have our creative meetings, and somebody in the meeting says, "I don't know, this feels like a skating song," and then somebody says, "Okay, well, this feels like a protest to me." Fine, they're going to protest on skates. There it is.
Wow. And there it
So
was. Yes.
yeah, it's a
So
lot of fun.
it's amazing. Like Anthony, the gospel singer Anthony Brown is one of those people who's always amazed me because he's
Yeah,
able to get what's in his head
yeah,
out in front of people. He's able
yeah,
to manifest that. And for some people, it takes work, and it may take work for him. It doesn't
yeah,
look like it when
yeah,
it's produced. But I say the same thing about you guys because you guys just think these things and you just find a way. The resource appears, or you just ask and you just do it. So,
right.
what do you say to creatives who have trouble with things like that, other than saying that might not be the lane for you? Because
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I don't like crushing
No, I don't
people.
believe that.
I like to kind of observe and maybe direct or speak in a different
Yeah, yeah.
place
What
instead of saying no, you can't do this, you should do this.
no, what I would say to people is learn how to be excellent on your level. I think sometimes people, and that's not a diminishing thing,
It's not.
because
No.
every level is important. And
Yes.
so when you realize how I can be excellent on my level, then what you start doing is stop discounting yourself when you see big dreams. Because
Wow.
that's what people do. They see something big and they go, I can pull nothing from that because it looks expensive. Or I can
Yeah.
pull nothing from that because it looks too large for my team. Or I
Yeah.
could pull nothing. And the minute you start thinking that thought, you discount yourself from the creativity that you're able to access.
Yeah. I've
That
been guilty of that. I
yeah,
have been guilty of
everybody
that.
has. Everybody has.
Hmm.
And you quit early because you think that there's nothing that I can pull out of that. When if
Right.
I take a moment and go, okay, I see this big dream. Like there's times I've seen stuff, I've watched movies or videos online, and it's been trapeze artists from the ceiling. And I may say at the time, I can't do trapeze artists on the ceiling, but have I taken a moment to talk about what I can do? What
Wow.
what in that can I apply to being excellent on my level?
Yeah.
What within that can I attribute? And I always say Temple University taught me how to do that because them theater departments budgets, and this is a big university. We used to laugh because we used to be like, these theater department budgets must not be that big, because we would do no because we would do things like we would have scenes that would involve a house, and
Okay.
instead of paying the money to have the set designer build an entire house,
Uh-huh.
they would put four people with sticks in a square, and and somebody in the middle pretending to be a door. But what they did is the actors playing the scene were so convinced in their mind that they saw a house even though they
Yeah.
didn't see a house, that after the first couple of seconds of them acting out that a house was there, you start to believe it's there.
Yeah.
You start
That's
looking at
good acting.
no, that's good acting. If
That's
you commit, but what that takes is you committing to it. It's literally the same principle that I tell people that when God talks about seeing something before it manifests on earth. When God instructs us to start seeing something and speaking something before it manifests on earth, part of that is me becoming so convinced that it's there that I'll convince everybody around me that I see it, even though it
right.
hasn't manifested yet.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Wow.
It's the
The
same
same
principle.
thing.
So I can get creative and be like, okay, cool. I don't have trapeze artists on the ceiling, but how can I move my body so that it looks like I'm bouncing up and down on a trapeze? Like, is there something
Right.
I is there something I can do physically? And it's just that's how I learn how to be excellent on my level.
Wow.
Yeah,
Learning how to be excellent on your level. And that
yeah,
and excellence is important. Excellence is
absolutely,
more than just your talent
absolutely.
and moving your talent forward. Excellence is knowing how the lane that you're in, how it works,
Yeah,
learning it,
yeah,
applying that,
yeah,
and also paying attention to others who have been successful
absolutely.
at doing what you want to do and finding out how they did it. For me, it's reading.
Hmm.
Like my business, when I first started my business, I wanted to model after the Motown
Yeah.
artist development piece
Oh
because
yeah.
it's so iconic even till this day that it
Hmm.
really can't be duplicated. You
Yeah.
know, you could just borrow from it, but in order to learn that, there were two autobiographies written with Barry Gordy and another person, two different
Hmm.
people on those books. I read both of those books.
Yeah.
I went to see Motown on Broadway, and one of the stories said it followed one of the books. I knew it so well that when they got to that scene, I believe it was in Paris, when he and Diana Ross went to consummate their
Yeah.
relationship for the first time, and he couldn't. I was like, they got that right because
Yeah.
I had read the book.
But you put it on. That's that. Even though it wasn't something you were doing right at the moment, you put it
Right.
on.
Yeah, I had to because this is what I said I wanted. So
Yeah.
I had to learn about it, and then I had to look at other things of people, of artists. I
Hmm.
had to study artists because I need to know what happened to these people, how they got to where they are. So I haven't been able to watch the Whitney Houston thing yet because I think that's gonna make me too sad. So I
Yeah.
won't watch that.
It's a lot.
But the James Brown movie was excellent. But I've read different things about James Brown as well.
Hmm.
Mary Wells has a book.
Yeah.
I read through her book. Elton John's book. I watched Rocket Man, which
Yeah.
was
We were just talking about Bohemian Rhapsody the other day.
that I've watched that like three times
We
because
were just
it's
talking about
just
that.
so good, and you get to know how the people in your line of work how they think. And they kind of
Yes.
pretty much think the same sometimes.
Yes.
It's
We
usually
realize.
tragedy or trauma somewhere that because they were so creative and so much larger than life, they were often misunderstood and
Hmm.
mishandled and had to be
Hmm.
homeless and all those kind of things. But how can you be another creative if you don't understand how those people worked and have compassion for them?
That's something to key in on that I think is really, really good because it spoke to me because it's something I've walked through, which is that idea of people misunderstanding who you are. It's very that's a very big deal for the creative because I think that people.
Sorry, y'all. I flipped my
No, you're good.
screen real quick. Here.
That's very important for the creative because I remember growing up. Let's not even get to the full on creative aspect. I remember growing up, I was always moving and I was always
Mm,
excitable and I was always talking and I was always moved from one thing to another. And
wow.
I remember my mom taking me to the doctor and doctors being like, "Oh, he has ADHD and he has all these issues and we need to put him on drugs." And let me be clear, if you know someone or a child that does have ADHD and you've chosen to put them on medication or anything like that, you do what you feel like the voice of God and what's best for your family.
Right.
This is not a downplay for that.
Right.
But for me personally, my mom took me and she said she took me to one of the ministers at the church. And I remember this conversation. And she told one of the ministers at the church the same thing. And that minister at the church told her, do not put him on any drug because the thing that they are talking about him and not understanding now is the thing that's going to pay him very well in the future.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she was told that while I was a child, and it so came to be the truth because now in my life people joke, but because my mind works like this, I am the person who I will I will have the creativity for the concert. I will plan the concert. I will set up the concert. I will run the schedule of the concert. Then I will get on stage. I will sing my set at the concert. And then I will get off the stage. I will run everybody else's set at the concert. Then I will
Right.
close everything out in prayer. And everybody will go home. I'll collect the money and I'll dismiss everyone. Because,
Right.
and that's not a thing to try to be prideful or boastful. It's a thing to say that God honed that skill within me. And
Yeah.
I imagine if my parents had succumbed to everybody saying they didn't understand why I was so excitable, they didn't understand why I had so much energy, they didn't understand why my attention could be on 20 different things at the same time. I think about if she had succumbed to that and dampered my way of thinking and how creative I was, what the
Yeah.
result of my life would have been.
Right. Right. Because that medication could have had an adverse effect on you in
Absolutely.
some way and could have killed your creativity.
What's up, Uncle
But
Joe?
and that's fine for those who choose to go that route. But
Yeah,
it's and that's why parents should be, especially believers, should be prayerful,
yeah,
about those kind of things and see the creativity in your children. My child was a very mild mannered kid. He's still a mild mannered
yeah.
man, but and it's weird because I raised a boy, so I have these granddaughters now who are all over the place. So I don't even understand that world for the life of me. I'm like, you all right? Like, are you
It
okay?
skipped a generation down to, or maybe two.
Yeah. But my son would wake up in the morning, and while he's getting ready for school, he probably killed me for telling this. Getting ready for school and going to the bathroom, he's banging on the wall beats with his hand. Or
Yeah,
he could do the beatbox like really good. He can't do it
yeah.
now, but he could
But you
give
could
Dougie
then.
Fresh a run for his money when he was younger. And one day I said to him, I said, "Is this the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning?" And he
Hmm.
said, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah,
I said, okay. We got him a drum set. When he was able to get into the Twigs program for the School for the Arts, he was in that for 3 years as a percussion major. He went there for 4 years as a percussion major. He graduated from another high school, but he did 4 years there.
yeah.
But people felt like I was pushing him. And even my son said to me, "Mom, I don't really want to do this. I want to play basketball. But you got bad knees, son. So you can't you don't have a
That
career.
ain't the
You
one. That ain't the one.
you you got bad knees. We in cast and all that kind of stuff. You got bad knees. You can't do that." But and even now he's producing, like he's working on producing music for a violinist. Like it's so many different things that if you don't pay attention, to your kids, you will miss the moment
Yeah, yeah,
to really say, okay, what is this? Not just because I sing or his dad is a producer. No, this kid has this. Like, it just comes to him.
yeah, yeah,
He excels. So when you see that in your kids and those that I mentor, when I see things in them, I'm like, oh yeah, they have it.
hmm
Everybody doesn't have it in the space that I look, but
yeah,
everybody has something.
yeah. Everybody has something,
Yeah.
and I think you got to leave room for people to figure it out. The one thing I think people can do, and I faulted myself in doing this for many years before I got over it, is looking back and wishing that your childhood or certain things were different as
Mm.
it pertains to the nourishment of your growth. Like somebody said, it makes a difference when you're in an environment that nourishes the gift inside.
Yes.
It does make a difference, but I think sometimes we can put too much stock in looking back and wishing things were different because we have to realize that back then people did what they thought was right with the tools that they had. And when we realize that people did what was right by us with the tools that they have, I'm not talking about egregious mistakes. I'm
Right.
not talking about people harming us or traumatic stuff. But
Right.
I'm talking about like my parents wanting me a doctor. Yeah, I did creative stuff all younger. I sang when I was younger. They could have saw that I was doing more singing than I was being a doctor. But
Right.
they did what they thought was right with the tools that they had.
Right.
So because of that, we have when we get the revelation of what we're supposed to do, we cannot waste time wishing that it was different when that time could be spent advancing us towards what we want to do.
Right.
I think it's a waste of
Yeah.
energy when we spend
It
too
is.
much energy looking back and going, why wasn't I trained? What's up, Blair?
Yeah.
Why
Hi,
wasn't
Blaine.
why wasn't I trained or why wasn't I given the opportunity? When we look back at that and spend our time dealing with why people won't or didn't or
Yeah.
can't have helped us back then we
Yeah.
waste the energy needed to focus forward and
Yeah.
focus on what we're doing. Redeem the
Yeah.
time, somebody said.
Yep.
Like that's how the time is redeemed. My
Yeah.
time is redeemed when I decide I'm not blaming anyone back there. They did what they thought they could do with the tools that they had. So what I'm going to do
Yeah.
now is I'm going to move forward.
Yeah, and that's something that I personally, and this is why I have these conversations because
Yeah,
I like for people to see the humanity with the
absolutely.
creativity. You do not just wake up one day and say, I'm a star, and that happens. You really have to do a lot of self work, understanding who you are, and those kind of things. Because I was one of those bitter people. When my son started high school at Baltimore School for the Arts, and I sat in that orientation. I got mad at my mother
Yeah,
because my mother is a
that's
retired
real.
Baltimore City educator. At the time, I was working for Baltimore City Public Schools at the time in HR. So I knew this school had been around when I was at his age.
That's real.
And why my mother just did not, I had been singing for a long time then,
What's up,
didn't put
Shot?
me in this school. I was like, what? I got mad. I got mad.
Yeah,
And I
that's
really had to,
understandable.
I had to process that and not,
Shot, Rashad.
hey, Sean, and not like hover that over her head. I never even had this conversation with her about it. So those of you who here know my mother, just tell her later I talked about it. But it just like it gripped me because I was like, because I coulda, I shoulda,
Yeah,
I woulda, but then it's like, okay, no, because you had to go through all of this, so you could sit in this chair today and watch your seed
right.
excel.
And we're not going to act unnatural. It's not
Right?
unnatural that response comes up. Let's be
Yeah,
real. Let's be
yeah,
real. I when I first switched over to being a theater major, as good as I enjoyed it and enjoyed what I was doing, I did have a moment thinking I spent my entire life fighting to be a biology major. I spent my entire childhood planning to be a doctor, only to get to my freshman and sophomore year of college and decide that I'm going to go into theater arts. And when I realized that, it took a minute of me going, whew, okay, I can't place blame on someone
right,
because they used the tools that they had
right.
to do what they thought what was best for me.
Yep.
So then I had to make a decision. that, okay, I'm going to turn forward,
Yep.
and it's not easy. It ain't simple.
No, it's
It
not.
it ain't a simple
It
thing.
took me a couple of years to
Yeah,
get to the point where I could say, I release you from that.
yes,
Like,
yes,
be done. Because I got to move on. Because
yeah.
I'm not moving on. Because I'm holding it.
And not even releasing just others, but releasing yourself.
Yourself. Yes.
Because we don't realize that we can't even dig into the creativity and the future that we have because we are so consumed with what we're not.
What we're not. Absolutely.
And that is a waste of energy and
Yes,
time. We
it
go through
is.
cycles and cycles and cycles of thinking about what I'm not, which is not changing.
Right.
No, no, like you have to realize when you really get an understanding. Let's say I woke up today and decided I wanted to be a football player. I'm not going to wake up and decide that, but let's just go with that route. If I spend the next 2 years thinking about how I'm not in shape enough to play football, and I never actually start getting in shape to play football, I have added an additional two
Two
years
years.
onto the balance of the conversation that I was already upset about.
Right.
So all I'm doing is cycling the same issue
Yep.
and the same problem and the same doubt and
Wow.
wasting more time when I could have just settled 2 years ago that whatever I was
Right.
not. I'm not.
Oh, that was good.
If
That's
I'm not
good.
that, I'm not.
Right.
I am currently not.
Right.
And that is
Woo.
also fine. Like, that's
Wow.
okay.
Wow. That just
Because
put me
then you
on
turn
pause for a
No,
second.
because then you turn your
Whew.
attention away from what you are.
Yeah.
That's all the devil wants us to do is be so focused on what we are not that we never turn our attention to what we are.
They're so guilty
Yeah,
of that. And I mean years of focusing on what I'm not. What I'm not.
absolutely.
But who I am is still waiting. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And like I said, that's not easy. I still deal with that. Like I think about my singing voice, and when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself. I'm a singer, but I'm not a Brandy runner. I'm not a Kim Burrell. You're not going to catch me doing quick runs and all that stuff. And there was a period of time in my life because there was such a massive influx of
Right.
people who their gifting was pointed that direction. Because I don't even want
Right.
to say that their gifts were the same because that would be unfair, which is what
That
people
part.
do. No, I can't
Right.
stay. We don't know how to have balance, Leslie. We don't know how to correct ourselves without downplaying other people.
You are right.
That's a side note. I
You are
cannot
right.
I could not stand when we feel like in order to figure me out, I have to trash another entity.
Right. When people
I,
do that, the first thing I was like, oh, you baby, you need a hug. You
oh yeah,
insecure. Something
you
wrong.
insecure. Like I don't
Yeah.
because that's why I said their voice was pointed that way because other people would look at that and go, "Oh, because they all sound the same." No, that's
No.
not That's not the truth. Limo
Right.
always said, no, I want you to know that she has been saying, we went to college together. She has been
Okay.
saying that since we were in school, that she's heard me do Isaac Curry. That's going to send me.
Those are
Okay.
pretty fast runs, though. They're
Yes.
pretty fast.
It comes out every now and then, but I am not directed towards that type of singing. And so other people would say they all time sound the same, but that's not the truth. There are different gifts. So
Right.
let's just say I'm not pointed in that direction. There was some time that I spent years being so upset that my voice didn't sound like that. It's it's
Wow.
it's something that I still deal with to this day that I have to
Wow.
remind myself on like, hey, but it's okay to do that. It's okay to
Yeah.
have days. But if
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to bounce back and say, but this is what I am.
Right.
This
Absolutely.
Oh, I may not be
Absolutely.
that, but this is what
Yeah.
I am.
That's one thing I encourage creators to feel what you feel. We cannot discount your feeling something because if you feel it, it's real to you.
Yeah.
But don't stay there.
Yeah.
Do not stay there because what you're feeling is not the sum total of who you are.
Yeah.
There's so much more to you. But I do encourage them, don't just brush it away because it'll
Oh
come
no, that's
back.
foolish. That's foolish because you ain't done nothing. If
It
you
will,
just brush it
right,
away, you ain't done nothing. Which is
right.
why I encourage. I'm a therapy advocate. I went to therapy and it changed my life.
Yeah,
And I'm a therapy advocate just to say it allows other people to help give you tools to think yourself out of the place.
right,
It's not giving you the tools to avoid a place, which is what
right,
people want.
right.
People want to walk around and act like nothing is wrong. And then you have that person who did that for too long. And then all of a sudden they have a meltdown and
Yep,
they're spazzing out and something snaps. That's
right,
because you didn't deal with it.
right.
You just put it
Absolutely.
to the side and kept going. But
Yeah,
therapy and good communication and good friendships will help you learn how to think something through so that when you do feel it, you don't stay
yeah,
there.
right. I've done therapy as well. And my first day in therapy, I was like, oh, okay. And he kept saying, I see these light bulbs coming on with you. I was like, well, I kind of always thought it might have been these
Yeah.
things, but you listening to me talk about me
Yeah.
and pull that out of what I'm saying. So now I can take that and I can go, because I'm a reader, I can go read on that. I can ingest that and I
Yeah.
can learn how to move beyond that
Yeah.
so I can help my son. I can help those around me because I have the gift of help. I
Yeah.
like to help people and to serve people. So it not only serves me, it serves those I serve.
Yeah. And people don't realize that's part of our gift of creativity. God gave us imaginations. Everyone. You may not call yourself a creative, but
Right.
everyone has an
Has his
imagination,
imagination. Yes.
which means we all have the ability to see something the way we want to see it.
Right.
And when the enemy gets in there and twists that sight to being a negative cycle, all he's done is take our ability to create and allow and push our ability to create into a space where we're creating a negative space for ourselves.
Wow.
Literally in our mind, we have created this negative room that we live in. That is the power of our imagination because half the
Yeah.
times when we're in that space, it's not based on the reality of what's happening.
Right. It's
It's
totally
it's
different.
it's not based off of what's real in the real world,
Yes.
but it's based off of what we've created in our minds. And when we realize that I have the power of a creator, I have the power over my own imagination. And when I think appropriately, I can create a new thing in my mind for myself. I can recreate my world for myself up here first. When I do that up here first, then life will start changing and looking different.
Wow. You are absolutely right. I'm a witness.
Yeah.
You are absolutely right. Wow. Okay, this is good for me.
Yeah, this is good for me too.
This is so
I'm
good for
talking to
me.
myself.
Oh my gosh. You talking to me, and I'm sure others who will view this
Yeah.
because people do come back and view these later because I post them on IGTV, and it's just, oh man, like I almost want to just have a moment and just let some of this process. I'm going to be thinking about this for the next couple of days. I'm going to journal
Yeah.
what I can remember tonight, and as it comes back to me tomorrow, because my brain runs a little slow sometimes.
No, you got to
Uh,
meditate on stuff.
yeah,
That's
I
how
will
I do.
be. I will be talking about it because this is really good. I want healthy, happy creatives around me because it is
Yes. Thank God for
possible.
that.
It is possible, and you have to choose your happiness.
Yeah.
You have to choose your happiness. And since God is God, I was about to say if God be God, but since
Yeah, yeah.
God is God,
I like
and
that.
we believe in Him through the acceptance of the example of Jesus Christ, why can't we be happy?
But Leslie, it's what you said. It's because it's a choice. You have to. I literally was just talking about this. You have to settle it within yourself. Like so many of us have settled that God is who He is,
Mm.
but we have not settled that we are who God says we are.
Oh, you just drop it up,
We
Lord
we
Jesus.
we haven't had that same level of settling.
Yeah,
Where I believe you, God. I believe that you are who you say you are, but I don't quite believe that I am
I
who
am
you
who
say
you
you are.
say I am.
Those
That's
are two
real.
very different things,
Different. Yeah.
but they require the same amount of settling.
Yeah.
As,
Yeah.
as determined I am to believe that God is who He says He is as determined I have to believe that I am who
I
he
am
says I
who
am.
he says I am. Whew.
And that ain't easy.
That is not.
Jesus. Like
Because
I'm talking,
when you don't see it, you don't feel it, you don't hear it, you just
yeah,
have to know. And as some people say in church, when my knower knows,
yeah. But
you
that's
just
something I
start
feel like the old
accepting it.
saints have on us. I don't know. This younger generation, I feel like the older saints had that on us.
They
They were,
just believed.
they
They
just
didn't have to
believed.
see. They just believed.
They just believed. They walked into space and said, "Okay, this is what it is," and I just believe it. And stuff was peeling off the walls, and stuff was falling down, and they were just like, "Yep, this is a
They,
happy, healthy."
yep,
And like now, I think it's because we're a little spoiled. That's just all
we
I know.
are.
We're a little
We
spoiled.
are. Yeah, we are.
I,
And our parents, y'all parents, spoiled y'all.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I got to spoil one of my
yeah,
mouths.
yeah. It
Because
was a bit spoiled.
we try to not have you have the pitfalls that we have without understanding that if you're human,
Hmm.
you're going to have them. We cannot prevent
Yes,
life from happening
yes,
to our children.
yes.
We can't prevent that. So because we can't prevent that, we don't see that. We're trying to put everything in place. It's almost like when I was raising my son, he was a latchkey kid at a certain age. I was working full time. I was going to school full time. I was singing in a group, traveling. I was
Yeah,
dedicated to my church. So fortunately, my mother lived around the corner. So we had that village kind of thing going on. But I kept him so protected
yeah,
and so safe that he kind of at one point wanted to just go outside and get tough. Like
yeah, yeah,
he liked the kids that live down the
yeah,
way. We didn't
yeah,
live around down the way. He
yeah.
wanted to go down the way because that gave him street cred as
We call
man.
them around here on this DMV side. We call it PG County gangsters. I don't know. I don't know how many gangsters in PG County that I'd be like looking at them. They literally live in 4 or 5 bedroom mansions, but on the street on the park talking about they're gonna shoot somebody. I literally
Right,
be like, why, why, what, why are we shooting?
right,
What do you need?
right.
Your fridge is full.
You have everything.
You have everything you need, and you live in a 5 bedroom house with 3 car garage. I don't understand why
Yeah,
you feel the need to shoot
yeah,
anyone.
right.
Like,
But your human nature says there's something else to me that's missing. So
yeah,
then the kids go looking for it
yeah,
outside of this safety net that we have created for them. And then when they get out there and fall down, we like, oh no, let me come help you. My son used to say, "Ma, you're hovering."
yeah. I love that term.
He's a little bit worse at the mouth than me. That's why he don't talk
Yeah,
that much.
yeah,
But we spoiled them, so we did not give them the ability to believe on their own. So now they gotta find it a harder way than we
yeah.
found it.
Now the good thing about that is I believe that it has created a generation of highly sensitive, highly creative people
Yep.
because their parents protected the space needed for them to express their creativity. Like our parents, I know I got parents and families who wish they were more creative, but they came from the generation of you work this job for 40 years
That's right.
because you put food on this table, because
Right.
your kids need to live and eat,
Right.
because racism abounds and we need to get a foothold in this world.
Right.
So we're going to take the 20-year job and work there for 20 years. But
Right.
the coddling, what it did for us is we didn't have to work for the 20-year job. So, but we went too far the other way. I often say I feel like this next generation is going to bring the pendulum back into balance.
I believe so. Yes.
I always say that because I believe
Yes.
we were all the way one way with the way we were living life and the strictness. And then some of us went all the way the other way where we don't feel like we have to be committed to anything. We just,
Anything.
if I don't like it, I quit.
Right.
If I hate it, I
Exactly.
quit.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with this, but I don't like listening to people, so I'm becoming an entrepreneur.
Right.
And nothing wrong with becoming an entrepreneur, but some people become an entrepreneur with no business plan, no no
No,
structure,
no
no nothing,
vision, no
no
nothing.
vision for it. It's just because you don't want to listen to nobody. I don't want to listen to
Right,
nobody, so I become an entrepreneur. So my
right.
hope is that this next generation will come and bring it in the middle. Like my sister says all the time that God lives in the balance.
Wow.
Like God lives on it. Okay, too strict is not the answer, but also not
Too,
doing anything is not
right,
the answer. And to
right.
bring it back to a creative conversation, that's why I'm always talking to creatives about structure. Creatives
Hmm.
who want to produce greatness have to employ structure.
Yes,
We
yes.
don't get to create and just, I always, my correlation is putting paint on the wall. I don't get to just throw paint at the wall if I'm trying
Right,
to be an artist.
right, right.
Like some artistry is paint falling down the wall, but the majority, if I'm trying to be an artist, it's I'm not picking up the paint can and just throwing it at the wall.
Right. It's
I
the
have to have a
system to it.
discussion. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have to just have a discussion about what system and what structure I'm applying
yeah.
to the paint to make this a thing.
Right, right.
Yeah,
That's good. Oh my gosh. Wow.
this is
Oh, I
good.
got a whole lot of pause moments for tonight.
Yeah,
Jeez. Wow. Okay, so what's next for you? Uh, you're leaving us again, but you'll be
I know. I
around.
know. I'll
You'll
be
be
around.
around. So, are you going to take like that same vibe and that same creativity and energy to where you'll be working?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So where I'm going, I'm going to keep the same position. I'll be the creative and worship director there at the
Okay.
ministry. So I'm going to employ everything that I learned here, there, and then there's a long list of other things that I'm looking to do. Like Leslie,
Okay.
you're probably the one person that I would say this live. I see a few friends of mine on here, so I don't mind saying this. I don't think I've ever said it this openly, but I plan on building a theater one day. I want to,
Yes.
yeah, I will get back to music and make some music and all the other stuff. So all of those plans are still intact. All of those dreams are still intact. But
Awesome.
I know what season I'm in, and the season that
Right.
I'm in now is I just came out of a season where really the last 3 years of my life, outside of some curating and things I was doing, was really about serving and really about assisting other people. And so
Okay.
now I'm heading to a place where where I'll be the one kind of, when you realize you're the one where the buck stops.
Yep.
I know you know what that feels like when you're
It's
used
not
to.
an easy place to
Yeah,
stand
when
in.
you're
I tell
used
you
to
that.
being the one, because there's something, a lot of people complain because they're in the second, this is just a side note. A lot of people complain because they're in the second man's position, but you need to know the safety of the
The
second man's position.
safety.
There's
Yes.
safety because at
Yes.
the end of the day, no matter what I do, I'm not the face of this. I'm not the
Right.
one driving the ship.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I can mess up and be a little bit more covered than the
Right.
person that's driving the ship. But now
Yeah.
I'm transferring from a place where I am that to I'm going to be the person kind of more in the forefront. And I'm
Hmm.
like, whoo, okay, Lord.
And it's great because you've learned
Yeah,
all of those positions.
yeah,
So now when you get to being the face, the thing, and Instagram is timing me down, but
yeah.
once you get to being that thing,
Thank you,
you
Shalia.
will know how to manage
Yep,
everything else behind you, and you
yep,
can brace yourself
yep,
for when the hits come. That is amazing. That is
yep.
so amazing. So since Instagram is counting me down, and they have a complete shut off system here, they don't
Yes,
waver
they always.
in their well doing. I want to say thank you, Derek,
Thank
so
you,
much
Les.
for closing out this series of creative conversations. I'm glad I got you in here to be a part of the flagship movement of this, because this will
Thank you.
not be the last time
Woo! I can't wait to see more.
that I do stuff like this, and you have helped to set the standard high
Oh, thank
for
you so
what
much.
these conversations are like. I thank everybody who tuned in, everybody who's going to watch later. We have 1 minute. Do you want to leave any closing remarks?
Closing remarks is just, of course, my gratitude, and I would encourage creatives to support one another. I think the spirit that Leslie has is a spirit that I think we all should create.
Oh, thank you
We don't need a crabs in a barrel mentality. There is space at the table for all of us, and
for all of us.
if there's not space at a particular table, we will help you build your own table.
Build your own table and
It
sit
one
my
of
chair
those
there and support you.
one of those two things will happen, but I know both of us have a heart to support other creatives and
Yes,
to
we
say,
do.
hey, let's go, you can do it. And
Right.
that's
Yes,
it.
we do. Derrick, thank you so much. Everybody here, please follow Derrick.Lionel, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Got you. And follow, well, you already follow me on Aubrey's Melody if you're watching. But keep us lifted in prayer, and we will do the same for you. Thank you.
Bye, Leslie.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
You too.